Alright, now that we've gotten the early finishes out of the way, it's time to jump into the list proper. Kind of like last season, I'm going to do a little bit of a head start on this one because it is currently like middle of June right now, and the ending dates for a lot of these shows are spread pretty far across, like almost 2 weeks worth of broadcast, or I think exactly 2 weeks worth of broadcast. So much like last season, I'm gonna do a batch of the early finishes. Like I got a spreadsheet of the stuff that finishes first. So like these 6 shows are the ones I'm going to go through first, just in order like this for this first video, and then I'm going to jump into the end cap at the end. Speaking of the end caps, we have Windbreaker Season 2, Gundam G-Quacks, however the fuck you pronounce it, Rock is a Lady's Modesty, Uma Musume Cinderella Grey, My Hero Vigilantes, and Apothecary Diaries Season 2. We technically don't have an official end episode count for Gundam yet, but everyone's been saying it's 12 episodes, so I'm just going to assume that it is, and if not, I'll just pick something else from this list to be another end cap if for some reason this goes to be 2 cores, but I know there was a lot of talk about this being only 1 core. And also, I'm not entirely sure if some of these are going to be finished by the end of the spring season. Yaiba, I think there's been some rumblings that it's going to be 2 cores, so I'm not sure about that one. A bunch of these shows at the end still don't have episode counts. And also, not sure when the Lupin OVA is going to get subbed, so we will see on that one. If it's not out by the end of the spring season, we'll just move it to summer. But anyway, let's get into our list. Once Upon a Witch's Death is our first entry for the day. I think I've heard a couple people talking about this one. Or maybe I'm confusing that with Silent Witch, which is an adaptation that's coming up in an upcoming season. All I know is it's EMT Squared as the studio, so that's not a great sign. But let's give it a shot. Yeah, not super feeling this one. I got like a third of the way into the first episode of Once Upon a Witch's Death. Super mediocre looking. The color palette is very dark in terms of like I guess I should say the saturation and the hues tend to lean on a bit of the darker side, which isn't a bad thing if everything complements it well, but it just sort of is like, just looks very oversaturated in a lot of ways. That this is a very EMT Squared style of color design from what I've noticed. I'm trying to think of other EMT Squared shows off the top of my head, but I kind of just wipe them from my memory when they're done because they're so mid. And this is no exception. The animation is like a bit jerky sometimes. Like there's this knock motion where like the main character knocks on the door, but it was like she was basically like flicking her wrist against the door, and it looked a little awkward. But that's not animation's really not my biggest complaint about the show. The biggest complaint here is that the tone is completely wrong, or just completely not what I would want from this kind of show, I guess. Premise of the show is that apprentice witch is going to die in a year because of a curse, and she has to collect like 1,000 teardrops of joy or something before then in order to make a seed of immortality or something. But like, man, there's like no real emotion behind any of this. Like, if you found out you were going to die in a year, would you be doing typical precocious anime teenage girl stuff, like pouting and like doing comedic screaming, not the sad screaming? She does not seem that affected by the knowledge that she's going to die in a year as you would think she is. And that's kind of the kicker for this one. Maybe it'll like show later in the episode that she's been kind of bottling it up or something, but there's really no indication from like the visuals or the script that she's bottling it up right now. There was like maybe one shot, but I was like reading super hard into it to try and justify why this show was being so cavalier about this character's approach to getting a death sentence. But even if it does lead into it later in the episode, I don't really have any anticipation that it will, first of all. But even if it does, it's already kind of laid shitty groundwork for that. Like, I'm not really gonna buy it later in the episode, I don't think, because we've already presented this very generic anime teenager. Very, very tell, don't show, which I'm normally not a huge, like, detractor of, but, like, it's not done particularly well in this. Yeah, there's nothing, like, it's not, like, a hugely bad story or anything so far. It's just, it had the opportunity to hook me with, like, a really strong emotional swing right at the start, but instead it decided to do it comedically, and I don't think it's really good comedy in that sense. So it just becomes a lot of like exposition. The script is not particularly good, so yeah, I'm not feeling this one. Alright, Once Upon a Witch's Death off the list. Up next, Please Put Them On, Takamine-san. This is an ecchi series, one of the fetish ones. I think it might involve pantyhose or something, or maybe just panties. I'm not sure. Let's see if it's hot. Not. The answer is not. Character designs suck. Compositing's terrible. A lot of slideshow panning shots are just the majority of the shots that I've seen so far. Main character is a fuck, just one of those like, oh, I'm a nobody, and and like I just have nothing at all to offer, and I cannot fucking stand these characters anymore. I looked up the premise on Mal just because I didn't get far enough into the show to actually know what the hook is, and it's fucking stupid. You can look it up yourself, but I look at it and I'm like, what's hot about this? I don't get it. Also, it's pretty rare for me to see like an animation fuck up within like the first 5 seconds or 5 or 10 seconds. But it is happening more and more often lately. Like, there's a shot of her and she's got like her elbow up like this or something, and they have, how do I honest? You know, like when you see fan art of anime girls' armpits and they draw them like pussies? Imagine that effect, but like right on the front of the elbow here. I was like, what am I looking at? What's going on here? It was so weird and so bad, and the show is not good. Okay, Takamine-san off the list. Next is Catch Me at the Ballpark. I believe this one is also an EMT Squared production. And I think basically from episode 1, everyone was like, oh no, this one doesn't look good. Uh-oh. Maybe they're wrong, but I'll give it a shot. So let's see. Let's do it. Yeah, much like the last EMT Squared show, this does not look good. In fact, I would say this one looks even worse. In particular, the wide shots of the diamond with the players on it looks really fucking bad. Almost like... It looked like a fucking early 2000s video game, almost, with how bad the CG is. You can only see it for a brief time, but you could tell from the coloring and the compositing that it was very obviously bad CG. Oof. And the character designs are super mediocre. Main girl's kinda cute, but the guy's design just sucks ass. There was... Even, like, when it tries to, like, be a little ambitious, it can't quite do it. Like, there's the shot of the girl, like, getting up from being hunched over, and, like, her back, like, she's leaning forward, and then she, like, leans to, like, a standing straight up position, and the frames stuttered. Like, the in-between frames weren't, like, completely clean. It's like, even... That's ambitious for EMT Squared. A character moving from a hunched over position to standing straight up. And they couldn't get that right. Anyway, apparently the main character of the show is like a ballpark, like, worker. Like, she's a beer dispenser. So that's interesting. I'll give it credit for being something that we haven't seen before. Not very interesting, especially because it looks bad. Like, even if it was interesting, which it might be later on, but so far it's not, but even if it was, you kind of need the visuals to be there for this kind of show. This is a specific niche thing that I like, and they're making an anime about it, kind of anime. So, if you do that, you kind of have to make it look good. Otherwise, what's the fucking point? Anyway, this show's not good. Alright, Ballpark off the list. Next is The Beginning After the End, Season 1. Man, I saw the title of this show in the charts and I was like, bold of you to assume that there's going to be more than one season. Based on the Mal rating that I saw, highly unlikely. But you know what? Let's give it a shot.
Yeah, that looks like shit. That actually might be one of the worst looking ones I've seen so far. Well, honestly... Well, from this season, I should say. But honestly, they're... God, all these early finish ones are all kind of at the same level of mediocre to shit quality. The facial expressions aren't quite right. Color design is way too oversaturated, like I mentioned with whatever the witch show. Main character looks fucking boring as fuck, despite being like an overpowered best king of all time kind of dude who committed basically committed genocide in his past life. He's like a super evil dude, but the reincarnation is just set up in the most boring way possible. It's just like he suddenly dies while he's in his room or something, staring at his crown. Like, not even, like, he doesn't even realize that he's dying, I guess. And he just gets reborn in a fantasy world. With a voice telling him, hey, maybe don't be a dickhead this time. But with much more flowery language. What was it? In your next life, seek the light. Which to my response was like the light of an explosion. So I already got that. um, also, there was a baby poop joke. It wasn't funny. Again, they could have done something with this if the main character had more energy behind him, more interesting, like, nuance to him, or just any kind of personality trait besides Stoic King, who is the super ultimate badass. But, like, there's nothing here, man. Also, this is by Studio A-Cat, apparently. They've done a bunch of other shitty isekai in the past. A bunch of other shitty anime in general, actually. Like the... What was it? The Leveled Up the Farming Skill one they did. I can't remember all the other ones that I saw on there. But this was so... You know, just once, I want an isekai where it's like a reincarnation isekai where the guy gets reincarnated as a baby, and he sees, like, the mom and dad, and they're like, oh, we have a new son, this is awesome. And I just want him to immediately go, who the fuck are you people? I just want, like, I just want one isekai like that. If it exists already, tell me. Because that would be very funny. Unlike this show. Which I don't know if this show is supposed to be funny or not. That's another thing. I don't know if it's trying to be funny when it does the jokes. Because the tone is mostly just very serious. So I don't really know sometimes what it's going for. Also, there's this one shot where, like, it's the dad's adventurer buddies are coming out of the forest. The cut from them walking out of the forest to the panning shot of the whole party was a bad edit. But also the panning shot itself was so weird, where it was like, it was moving so fast and at such an angle to where I couldn't focus on any person in particular. And so it just felt like it was blurring past the whole party members. So I was just like, well, I took in none of that. Who did this? Why would you do that? God, this is bad.
Alright, get this mid-as-fuck isekai off my list. It's a shame, because I saw some pictures of the love interest for this one, and she looked, like, super cute, and I was like, maybe the show will be good, actually, but no, it wasn't. Anyway, the Brilliant Healer's New Life in the Shadows. Looks like we got another isekai on the docket. A healer isekai aren't all bad, from what I've seen. What was it, The Wrong Way to Use Healing Magic was really good. So maybe this will follow in its footsteps? Perhaps?
Oh god, it's really sad that this is the best looking show I've seen so far in this episode, and it still looks mid. I got, like, first of all, I got 5 minutes into this episode, and the majority of the episode, after the brief exposition dump of how this world works, and, like, how this is a world where healers are, like, super well respected and stuff, but our main guy Zenos is essentially a blackjack kind of healer. He's just unlicensed and will do stuff for a price, whatever. First of all, he's boring as fuck so far. But I really can't even make a solid judgment on that because he barely shows up in the first 5 minutes, because most of the first opening scene of this show is a parade of hot anime women showing up to his healing office, probably to flirt with him. At least one of them explicitly wants to flirt with him. Very much implied that at least 2 of them do. Probably all 3. And then there's the fucking cute lolly elf that's already there. It's so fucking self-indulgent and like it is certainly a way to make the main character look cool and awesome. Like, oh look, he's got all these women lining up to suck his dick. Why? Who knows? He's a healer. How good a healer? I don't know. He's not licensed, and he doesn't seem like he's particularly good. We saw him heal someone's wrist or something in the first couple scenes. Also, there's like a ghost lady voiced by Yoko Hikasa. I don't know what her deal is. She kind of just popped in and then popped out. The elf girl didn't really explain any of it. And I'm not against leaving stuff for later, but that's just kind of weird. But also, the editing in this is fucking bad. This is a really poorly edited show. Like, the way that shots like the cuts from shot to shot are so jarring multiple times in the first 5 minutes of this show. It's fucking bad. Did the fucking Fire Force fucker edit this goddamn show? If you want to know what I mean with that, you should go watch my video on Fire Force on the main channel from back in season 2 of 12 Days of Anime is when I did that. But man, the editing is terrible in this. Also, the lip flaps look a little weird. Not super bad, but the fact that I noticed them is part of the issue. I think there's like there's like one too many frames in it. So if anything, they just need to cut out a frame, do less work, I guess. Or maybe it's because the mouth is too wide or something. I'm not quite sure. But boy, I could not care. I don't even know what this guy's deal is, and I already hate him because the show decided to just drop a bunch of anime women that I've never met before straight on his dick. So, unfortunately, I have no interest in this one, especially since it seems like the magic system isn't going to be particularly complex, since normally, if it was going to be complex, normally they jump right into that. Also, there's this, the elf lolly is fucking cooking something, and then she goes like, and now the secret ingredient, and she drops a leaf in. I'm like, that's just a bay leaf. That's just a fucking bay leaf, girl. Come on. I will, from a critic's standpoint, it was very funny to just see this parade of women line up for this probably edgy Doctor Boy. But no, I have no interest in this.
Jesus Christ, that's 5 early drops in a row. Can we get one where I at least finish the first episode with can a boy-girl friendship survive? Can I survive this show? I'm already suspicious of the title because I don't like that mindset of viewing gender dynamics at all. But, will I survive the first episode? Unlike all of the other shows, this one actually seemed to have an audience. So, maybe there's something to it. The blue-haired girl looked kind of cute. Let's the anime.
Well, I gave it a shot, and I thought I saw light at the end of the tunnel, but sadly, I did not make it. I got a little over 3 episodes into can a boy-girl friendship survive. Started off strong, had a pretty solid first episode. I have seen some people describe it as seasonal ick to a certain degree, and I can understand that. because it definitely has a lot more of that as it goes on. Um, with how fucking contrived some of this stupid shit is. But initially I found the main couple to be pretty charming. I found their banter, while very light novel-esque, I found it very snappy and fast-paced, and the animation was not garbage. I'm joking. It was actually like, first episode, the animation was actually solid. Not super impressive, but after watching 5 shows that were just complete fucking dog shit, it was like a fucking oasis in the middle of the desert. Although that dropped off noticeably as the episodes went on. The first episode is definitely the best looking episode. It's the best shot episode, aside from some more like titillating scenes in the later episodes of just the main girl is hot. The main girl is very hot, and the show knows it, and they work with that, which is good. But that's kind of all that it has after the first episode of the banter, of like the setup of like, oh, these two have been like just friends for like 2 years at this point, and it's like, oh, and then the guy's like former elementary school crush comes into the picture, and that makes the girl Himari jealous, and so she basically just starts to lose it. I'm pretty sure she already knows that she's like in love with the main guy at this point, but she doesn't want to ruin the friendship, which, like, I get that, but like, boy, does that devolve into fucking stupid bullshit at the end of episode 3, where she just breaks off. She just has a like fucking hissy fit and breaks off the friendship, I guess, so as to, I don't know, avoid him or something. I don't know what the plan was here. And the start of episode 4 was pissing me off even more. But yeah, it does have good banter amongst the main duo, and like, animation's decent, although again it does start to fall off after the first episode. The main guy's design really takes a hit as it goes on. Like, he already was super generic looking, as light novel protagonists are, but boy, he does not stand out. Like, it's not that hard to draw, like, fucking, like, I know that's not a priority for these kind of shows, but it's not that hard to make a main character that's not completely boring looking. Like, fucking, the guy from Makain, the Nuku whatever, Nukushima, I don't remember what his name is, it's had Nuku in it or something. Like, his was like, it was a plain design, but at least it like looked a little different from all the other stuff around him. He didn't, like, the guy in this show looks almost exactly like the guy from the Russian speaking one, that show. He looks almost exactly like the guy from that. It's super fucking generic. I'm prolonging this for some reason, because I just don't have anything else to say. It had something, and then it just dropped the ball. And the drama of this rom-com drama, I don't like at all. So I see no need to continue.
Alright. Boy-girl friendship off the list. Still hate that fucking title. But it's time for an end cap now, and our first end cap of the season is Windbreaker Season 2. Liked the first season a decent chunk, although I thought that that one arc went on for way too long. And I've seen a lot of screen caps of one character in particular that I'm very interested in seeing how that character works in this show. So let's see some fights, baby.
Alright, that's another good season in the books. I just finished up season 2 of Windbreaker. I am of two minds about this series now. I don't think I mentioned it a lot in the when I did the first season, which I believe was the spring 2024 season. So last year's spring season. So if you want to go back and revisit my thoughts on season 1, you can check that out in a seasonal wrap-up show from then. But I have some issues with how the show is written. Not like, well, sort of structure-wise, but mostly in terms of like how information is delivered. Because, well, mostly in the fact of like it has a lot of the worst traits of anime writing cranked up several notches, like abnormally long internal monologues that end up repeating a lot of information, stuff that we already know, stuff that didn't really need an internal monologue, extensively long flashbacks that slow down the pacing of something, and it's not unique to Windbreaker, but especially true in Windbreaker is this show has a habit of moralizing its plot a lot. Which, again, not unique to Windbreaker. That's kind of a thing with anime in general, where it's like there is a moral being fought over in the story of the anime. That's why I like a lot of anime. But Windbreaker, like, really hammers on the fact that it is a moral lesson sometimes, to the point where sorry, I'm getting over some kind of sickness. I've been fucking sick like all week. It sucked. But like to the point where it feels less like an anime story and more like an ethics lesson. Like it feels like it is prescribing a moral lesson to you at times, and that makes it very not fun to watch sometimes. Now, again, I finished the whole season, and I would definitely watch more if it came to it, but especially in the first half of season 2, it really goes on about that. Like, it sort of takes the story writing out of the writing, and just goes in on the theme of it. And, like, there are very good themes to talk about, like cooperation, delegating tasks to others instead of just piling everything on yourself to the point where you just break down. Trans-inclusiveness. There is a character who I am fairly certain is trans because they use feminine pronouns and they are assigned male at birth but very obviously prefer feminine things. This character of Tsubaki dresses like a woman, acts like a woman. They just never use the word trans, or they never say the phrase like I am. Well, they never use the explicit phrase I am a woman. But there is a point where they are referred to as a big sister by one of the other characters. So, for all intents and purposes, trans woman. That's how I interpret it. Could be gender non-conforming, just that, because their whole entire episode is like being biologically male, but not liking many of the biologically male-centric interests, like RC cars or sports or stuff like that, and being very into like fashion and looking pretty and like color design and such. So it could just be a case of gender nonconformity, but I feel like there's enough evidence there to say that this is a trans character. Love them, by the way. Very interesting. Their backstory was very heartwarming. Just this child feeling just completely out of place and lost, and finding comfort in people who accept them for who they are, and giving them the confidence to be more of what they want themselves to be. Very great story. But even that point, it really starts to fall into the, like, okay, you are just moralizing now about gender non-conforming people, which is a good thing to do. It's just that the writing sometimes feels very ham-fisted and like beating a lesson into you instead of just letting the lesson come to you as a natural part of the story. It reminds me a little bit of like I think it was like last week or something, Tony Gilroy, who was the lead, like the showrunner for Andor, said that Andor is not a leftist show because he doesn't think about that when he's writing it. But Andor I haven't seen Andor, but I've seen a ton of analysis of Andor, but Andor very clearly has leftist politics baked into it because that is what the writers of Andor ascribe to. But they didn't set out to make a leftist show with Andor. They just wrote a really good show that ended up having leftist politics in it because that is what they know about that is their understanding of the world. Windbreaker feels like it is a leftist show. Like it is purposefully being leftist. Which ends up taking away from the experience at times. Which is a shame because, as a leftist, I agree with all the things that it's saying. It's just saying them in an extremely ham-fisted way. Like, this is also, again, I need to read more texts on this, but this is a very anarchist show as well. Like, there are a lot of tenets of anarchism in this show, like delegation of tasks and community engagement and group organization, top-down versus bottom-up hierarchies, so on and so forth. Once I actually read more anarchist text, I will probably do a full-on video about this. Of course, that also depends on whether or not I end up getting the government job that I am currently applying for, because I can't put out a video about anarchism if I do that. But that's for a time down the road, I guess. But if you are curious about what anarchism actually is, I can't say that this is a good introduction to it, but it will give you a good feel for some of it, I guess. If you actually want to know about anarchism, you should listen to all the Cool Zone media podcasts, like Behind the Bastards and It Could Happen Here, cool people who did cool stuff, Hood Politics, all that group of podcasts is a good way to get jumped into that. Margaret's doing a great series on the alter globalization movement right now. This is such a massive digression. But I really like the ideas that this anime is conveying. It's just doing them in a very ham-fisted way. And that kind of goes for its character development stuff too, sometimes, to a less extreme extent. Like, but it's still there. Like, I loved Sakura's big character moment for this season of shedding the I'm a big tough guy who's gonna do everything by himself, I don't need anyone else to help me, I can do just fine on my own. Shedding that and moving into I like being accepted by other people, and now I can rely on others to help me. I'm still going to do my best, but now I have others backing me up. I really liked his arc for that. When it's not just hammering on it so fucking hard with internal monologues that just repeat information ad nauseum. Yeah, it's good. And also the fights are still really good in this. I will say I forgot to mention this at the start, but this the first season ends like halfway through an arc. I'm sure I talked about that in the last seasonal wrap-up show entry, but like it really does not do it any services by starting halfway through an arc for season 2, because those first 3 episodes were not super good, just in terms of jumping you back into it. And I also think it's one of the weaker arcs of the series that I've seen so far, even though it sort of builds into the big Sakura character moment. It's just the stuff that preceded that wasn't quite as strong until like the very end of it. And also that one I think had the worst fights so far, mostly not because it's not that the animation was bad, it's just that what was focused on with the animation wasn't quite what needed to be focused on, because it went all in on Sakuga for a lot of it, but some of that Sakuga felt but a little weightless at times. The impacts were not quite as strong as they could have been in the opening fights of this series. Not true for the other 2 arcs in this series. All the stuff in the middle. Well, I guess there's really one other arc in the series, I should say. I watched this over the course of about 4 or 5 days, I think. So trying to push everything back together in my brain. But like some of the later fights were definitely much stronger, like especially the Tsubaki versus Suzuki near the end of the big Keisei Street arc is what I'm going to call it. I don't know what the exact arc name is, but I'm going to call it that. Just really great choreography that's super impactful. Loved pretty much every new character design we got to see. Nothing felt super generic or like boring to look at, and also nothing felt overdone or like gaudy or out of place or anything. I love the red highlights in Tsubaki's hair. I really loved, because like you don't see that super often, I guess. So very fun to see. Yeah, pretty much everything I said about the animation is the same as season 1. Although I did notice more CG background characters this time. Especially in the Keisei Street stuff, actually, because there's a moment where like shouting matches are happening across a battlefield, and you just see like pairs of CG people fighting in loops, and it looks kind of silly. But the fight stuff that gets focused on by the camera, for the most part, is really good. And I still really like the color palette of this show. It uses gray tones in a very interesting way that makes the show not feel drab, but it makes it feel very stark in an interesting way. I really appreciate that. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about Windbreaker so far, I think. Would definitely love to see another season. I don't think they have announced another season yet. They just announced a live-action movie, but I don't think they announced any subsequent sequel seasons or sequel movies for the anime. Which I would definitely look forward to that. We just set up this big new final boss-ish character of sorts coming in from Bofurin's history. Would love to see that. He basically looks like the Flame Hashira from Demon Slayer, but a little bit more villainy. And his voice sounds super familiar. I went to check who it was on Mal, but they hadn't updated who it was yet, so I guess they haven't announced who that was by the time I was recording this. I'm sure that will be cataloged by the time this comes out, but yeah, if there is more Windbreaker in store, I am looking forward to it.
Alright, Windbreaker Season 2 is complete. We're going to scroll, let's see, we're not going to go super high up for this one. Let's put it right above the Konosuba OVAs in the number 15 spot for now, with a light 7. Could have been a little bit less hammering with its messaging, but still a fun time.